Hello everyone and welcome to Professor Oak's lab. Just kidding, this is a green screen, but
Hello
if
there.
you recognize this lab, then you should have some sort of idea of what I'm doing today. I'm taking pictures of Pokemon, but not in Pokemon Snap. I'm going outside to touch some grass and take pictures of Pokemon in real life. But Aaron, Pokemon aren't real. With the amount of exposure Pokemon has in our world, from playing the games in competitive settings to spending too much money on merch that takes up way too much space in our house, I think it's okay for us to use our imagination for just 2 seconds. So grab your cameras and join me on this expedition to take pictures of Pokemon. If this is your first time seeing me, hi, my name is Aaron. I'm a content creator who likes to explore the emotional impact of video games, and part of that includes being a photographer. I started using social media just like everyone else by sharing pictures, but I got sucked into the world of toy photography, which is basically bringing toys to life through creative photography. This is the first of many videos that I hope to do where I share my process with all of you, so make sure to press the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment with your favorite Pokemon if you want to see more thoughtful and creative Pokemon and gaming content. Pokémon Snap released in 1999, and I never owned this game as a child, but I did rent it through Blockbuster pretty frequently. I also never played through the whole game when I was younger, but I did recently go back with a few friends of mine, and we took a picture of almost every single Pokemon, including Mew. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on Pokémon Snap itself, I recently was a guest on another Pokemon podcast. Bex and Galatrad get together every other week to talk about all things related to the Pokemon franchise, and this time it was all about Pokemon Snap. I know I'm always looking for new podcasts to listen to, so you can find another Pokemon podcast basically everywhere, but I'll leave links for them in the description. So what are we taking photos of today? I've been wanting to take more pictures of my Pokemon doll collection, but which Pokemon am I bringing on my adventure outside? Should I start this series with Gen 1 Pokemon like the obvious choice, maybe my favorite Pokemon, or I know, let's make a journey to the Kalos region. I have a bunch of Pokemon dolls from the 6th generation, but I'll keep what I take with me as a surprise. So I am an actual photographer and I've taken pictures of animals, nature, but one of my favorite things to engage with is something known as toy photography. I like to describe this to people as bringing toys to life, and there are many ways to do this, but I typically like to pack my bag with a bunch of different toys and plush, and I'll go on a hike or explore the world with my Esper. I try to look for spaces that you could find the Pokemon I bring with me in the Pokemon world to create some sort of suspension of reality and pretend Pokemon are real for just a little bit. Some previous photos of mine include this Bonsly, Charizard, and Mew. If you want to explore more of my photos, you can check out my Instagram and also check out Captain Dangerous and Tiny Epic Photos if you want to see more examples of toy photography. When it comes to Pokemon Snap, I think everyone is aware of Professor Oak and his judging system. He
Oh,
likes to have everything centered, facing forward, and with as many Pokemon as possible, but I think it's more of an issue with what was possible with game development back in 1999, so please don't use Professor Oak's judging system as something objective for art.
wow.
Professor Oak has eyes, but he's certainly not a photographer. Taking pictures is kind of like a love triangle, trying to balance the exposure of an image through three specific things: ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, which are all represented by different numbers. These things aren't used in Pokemon Snap, but they're relevant to me as a photographer. ISO is an acronym that doesn't actually stand for anything, but the higher the number, the brighter your image will be. You also don't want to just depend on this for light, because the higher the ISO, the grainier your image will look. Shutter speed dictates how long your lens is exposed to light, so this is the amount of time your camera shutter stays open to allow your camera to capture an image. A faster shutter speed allows for more light to enter, so this is useful for freezing motion, and a lower shutter speed allows for more light to enter, which is used when you want to create motion blur or perform long exposure photography. Aperture tells your camera how wide you want to open your lens, which is helpful for depth of field. If you ever hear someone talking about their f-stop, this is what they're referring to, and This allows you to get that blurred background that a lot of people like in their photos. And if you want to play around even more with your camera, you can use different lenses, which affect something known as focal length. Each lens usually has a specific measurement attached to them in millimeters, and focal length determines how much of a scene you can capture and also has an effect on how large or small a subject will appear. I usually switch between a 50mm and a 100mm. So an object with a 50mm lens will look smaller than an object captured with a 100mm lens. The human eye's focal length is apparently around 25mm, and I feel like this is where the saying that the camera adds 10 pounds comes from. Every one of these also plays with the amount of light that interacts with your camera, so it's hard to balance, but I will also say that there is no shame in turning on the automatic function if you have no idea what you're doing. If we're comparing Pokemon Snap to new Pokemon Snap, I think new Pokemon Snap is more accurate to taking pictures in real life. Maybe not as you're playing through each course, but you can go back and edit after you're done taking pictures to adjust things like depth of field and color grading, almost like doing actual post-processing. While new Pokemon Snap is beautiful, I like the charm and personality of the original more. So as we go through each photo I'm taking today, I'm gonna try to use Professor Oak's judging scale as best as possible. Pokédex number 650. The quills on its head are usually soft. When it flexes them, the points become so hard and sharp that they can pierce a rock. A grass type known as the spiny nut Pokemon, it's Chespin. For this picture, I wanted Chespin to feel like it was discovering its natural habitat, almost like I stumbled upon it while wandering through a forest trail. Chespin is a grass-type Pokemon that probably lives in woodland environments, so placing the plush inside a hollowed tree stump felt like a perfect nod to its supposed ecology. I framed Chespin low in the stump to create a sense of scale, like it's this tiny forest warrior peeking out from its secret hideout. The greenery in the background adds just enough environmental storytelling to make it feel alive, playful, and curious. Pokédex number 653. Eating a twig fills it with energy, and its roomy ears give vent to air hotter than 390 degrees Fahrenheit. A fire-type Pokemon known as the Fox Pokemon, it's Fennekin. For Fennekin, I wanted the environment to echo its fire-type energy without needing actual flames. The bright red autumn leaves were perfect for this, naturally matching the heat and vibrancy of Fennekin's palette. I shot this at ground level to capture the perspective of a wild Fennekin exploring a forest in the fall. The warm light enhances the yellows and reds, making the plush glow as if it's radiating its own warmth. The leaves also give it some motion, like the environment is reacting to its presence, the way a real Pokemon Snap level might. Pokédex number 656. It secretes flexible bubbles from its chest and back. The bubbles reduce the damage it would otherwise take when attacked. A water type known as the Bubble Frog Pokemon, it's Brokey. I really wanted to play with the idea of spotting a quiet, observant Pokemon near a pond or stream, the kind where you turn around and suddenly it's just there watching you. The log was the perfect spot because it feels like something Brokey would naturally use to stay above the water. This was probably the hardest photo for me to take because the log was in the water, so I got a little messy and nearly fell in a couple times. Pokédex number 677. The organ that emits its intense psychic power is sheltered by its ears to keep power from leaking out. A psychic type known as the Restraint Pokemon, it's Esper. Esper, which is my personal favorite Pokemon, is known for having such a wide-eyed, unsettling expression, so I wanted the environment to mirror that. Placing it on a wooden beam with soft, dreamy bokeh behind it created this almost eerie tranquility, like you've encountered Esper at some abandoned structure. The cool tones reflect Esper's psychic typing, giving the scene a slightly mysterious vibe. It feels like Esper is watching something, which is very on brand for them. Pokédex number 25. It raises its tail to check its surroundings. The tail is sometimes struck by lightning in this pose. An electric type known as the Mouse Pokemon, it's Pikachu. With Pikachu, I wanted to capture that classic adventurous energy. Seeing Pikachu up in the branch of this tree reminded me of one of its Pokemon cards and a previous picture I took of a Pikachu figure. These are all kind of inspired by being able to find a Pikachu early on in red, blue, and yellow in Viridian Forest. Before we get to Professor Oak and have him harshly judge all of my pictures, I'd like to share about my editing process. No one is talented enough to take the photo that they envision most of the time, and even if everything is perfectly set up, there's still gonna be a need for at least color grading. So with Froakie being my favorite from this bunch, let's take a look at what I did because the process is pretty similar for all of them. You'll notice the original photo basically looks the same as the edited photo, but I like to pass my photos through this process to make sure that it completely matches my vision. It's not much, but I feel like it does a lot. I like to start every picture using a curves layer, which helps me adjust shadows, midtones, and highlights. You'll notice that I placed 3 points on a graph to represent each one, and I moved them around until the image felt balanced. Typically, you want to aim for sort of an S shape. And because pure black can be harsh on the eyes and sometimes flattens details, I like to lift the very beginning of the curve slightly. This will crush the blacks, giving everything a softer, more accessible look while keeping important detail. To keep the colors feeling cohesive, I add very subtle color grading layers at very low opacities. It's kind of like gently washing a photo until everything feels like it belongs in the same world. From there, I use the dodge tool to selectively brighten a few areas, mostly Froakie because that's where I want the eyes to land. And sometimes I'll also add a soft gradient vignette to subtly pull your eyes toward an area of the frame. And I also like to do a quick cleanup using the healing brush to remove things like dust, stray fibers, or distracting blemishes. I use this same method with portraits of people too. It's a small detail, but it keeps the viewer's attention on the subject instead of little imperfections. The end result is an image that I think feels alive, like Froakie is genuinely pausing on this log for a moment, just long enough for me to capture it.
Oh! You were close! Oh! You were close! Oh! You were close! Oh! Wow! You were close! Oh! You were close!
And with that, we've officially wrapped up this Pokemon photo expedition. It's crazy how much work goes into just taking a single photo, from nearly falling into a body of water to trying to find just the right light to make these plush feel alive. But that's what I love about photography. It lets you slow down, pay attention, and build your own world where Pokemon can exist for just a moment. I think that's also why Pokémon Snap has stuck with all of us for so long. It's not a game about battling or grinding or rushing through objectives. It's a game about observing, noticing the details, and appreciating the personality of each Pokemon. And whether Professor Oak will give me a perfect score or yell at me for not centering my subject, well, let's just say he should stick to his day job.
Wow.
If you enjoyed this journey touching some grass, or if you want to see me take more plush and figures on future adventures, whether that includes certain Pokemon from another region, a specific evolution line, or outside the Pokemon world, let me know by liking, leaving a comment, and subscribing so you don't miss out on my next video. Thank you so much for spending time with me and for supporting my content and letting me share the joy I have for combining photography with the games that have shaped me as a person. If you find the inspiration to take your own photos like this, share them with me by finding me on social media or joining my Discord server. If you liked watching this, you might also enjoy my video where I showcase Pokemon cards as art. Bye!